Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian Wallace Horvat. I'm a filmmaker and a Blu-ray producer, and I write about film sometimes. And I'm sitting here with,
Michael Pressman, and I'm the director
uh,
of this film.
exactly. All right, so we are watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. And the film starts with a montage of people in New York City eating pizza in
Let me jump
typically New
in. Let
York
me jump
locales.
in and say that this
Yes.
whole sequence actually it was sort of my idea. We needed to set up the New York, and I decided to put everybody in the shots that the most important thing is eating pizza. So as you can see, everyone who has a separate job is also eating pizza, whether it's driving a cab, walking a street, making out in the park. That people, it sort of builds for the opening sequence. But even the cops arresting somebody are busy eating, and that's the original Rays, or we called it Roy's for legal reasons.
Yes, I was going to ask about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they wouldn't let us use Rays, but and yep, it was all about pizza for the opening, and of course it pays off later. And there's little and young, energetic, talented Ernie Reyes, who was a dreamboat.
Yeah, so Ernie Reyes Jr., I love how his name shows up exactly at the same point as he turns up. And he had been in the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as Donatello's double.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
I forgot that. I think that's where they heard. Well, the the gentleman who handled all the stunts and everything was very aware of Ernie and sort of encouraged us to consider him for this part. It was written for him, actually.
was that the martial arts choreographer, Pat Johnson?
Yes, the wonderful Pat Johnson, who recently passed away, I think. He had gone on to do a lot of the Karate Kid movies, and he was terrific.
So I love this. We see these very stripped down vans, no doors. And for the fans who've seen the first movie, they're going to be very clued in to the specter that this raises of the possibility of Shredder's return, since in the previous film he supervised a ring of thieves. I love this set that you've built, this little like underground mall.
All these sets were built, by the way, because of the action. And once you bring the animatronic turtle in, you've got to have the puppeteers and the electronics and space to work. And this was great fun to do. Now, also, I'll just sort of explain a little bit. This sequence, pretty much I shot everything, but usually what would happen, that was a special shot, and that might have been shot by the second unit. That would take literally a day to do because they'd have to build platforms, and those are the stunt turtles. These are the acting turtles, which it has to do with actors who are mimes in the suits, and those are not their voices. Later, we redubbed everybody, and we used the puppeteers as a track for them to duplicate later. But the I would shoot for maybe 4 or 5 days the sequence, and then I would go on to another stage, and the second unit would come in with the stunt turtles. I always used to say it takes about 4 people to make a turtle. One is the stunt turtle who does not wear a mask of animatronic movement. It's just a simple head. Then there's the puppeteer who's off camera moving the face, and then there's the actor in the suit, and then there's the artist who shows up after production to redo the voice. So it's 4 people make up a turtle.
It's a distinct division of labor to be
Y-
these turtles.
yes. But what's interesting
And
is
so,
that the personalities come across very strongly as different, and it has to do with the actors in the suits. Mark Casso. Anyway, oh, so this was a routine that I particularly liked that we sort of found in rehearsal and played with. And he has a real, for the next shot.
so these turtle heads are different from the turtle heads in the first film. They have a different mouth control.
I was not aware of that. I know that the Hensons did both, the first and the second, but they actually didn't do the third. And I don't remember, I don't know what happened with it, but the third film was a far more primitive turtle head. These were very advanced, and the same puppeteers that did one had done two. So it was the same group. And if they did anything, it was sort of, in their minds, an advancement. I don't think there was anything that they didn't. They probably just made adjustments. Your eye is a little
So
better than mine in this area.
I'd
I
love to talk about these sausages because they have to do with a battle that the film had with the British Board of Film Classification.
correct.
Um,
We couldn't
yeah,
use nunchucks, and I again didn't understand completely what was going on at the time, but we came up with the idea of using sausages like nunchucks, which we got away with, so that in fact it wasn't the nunchucks; they were just sausages, and it passed the board. But I do remember there was some drama about the situation.
yes. So the in the UK they were really concerned about the idea that children might be influenced by ninjas. So even before the sequel had come out, you know, with the television show, they didn't even want the word ninja in there. So the show in the UK was called Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, and they re-recorded the theme song,
Oh my god!
and they were so frightened by ninja weaponry that there were these prescriptions around showing nunchucks and about the British Board of Film Classification director James Furman didn't even like that these sausages looked like nunchucks, and he asked for cuts. So he wrote in his report, after Turtle takes down sausages and uses them as a flail, reduced to minimum dazzling display of swinging sausages indistinguishable from chain sticks.
Now, I just want to
And
jump
those
in and
cuts
say
had to
real
stay, yeah.
quickly. Not only
Yes.
is that the actor who does Michelangelo, that's I'm giving away a secret here. He's with Susie Essman, who is a cousin of mine, who ended up being on Curb Your Enthusiasm as Susie Green. But so we have some little hidden star roles here in the film. To make a long story short about the nunchucks, it never really got to us on the set. I had heard about it. I was never even aware of this letter or concern, and it really appears to be very ridiculous and silly. What I will say, in terms of this film, which is very different than the first film, was we geared this to a far more comical, younger audience. That in essence, this was really Marx Brothers farce as a style and approach. And the cameraman Shelley Johnson, who was brilliant, went on to do lots of feature films. Went back to the actual comic books and started to capture the brighter look of the comic strips. So this was really an out and out, comedy, whereas the first one was a much darker film and probably truer to the original black and white that Peter Laird had envisioned for the Turtles. The two creators, Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, have very different opinions, and Kevin just enjoyed the Turtles and its success, and Peter was quite disappointed that it had lost its original vision that he saw as a dark black and white comic strip. So it was opposing personalities between the creators. The other thing I want to mention real quickly is that, in terms of directing style, I tried to keep as much in master shots for the comedy, that I kept people in 4 shots and 5 shots and really worked on the chemistry as opposed to doing cutaways and single shots. If you've noticed, this is already one shot with different moves in it, which is very hard to do. And we would sometimes spend a half a day on shooting that shot. That's the first reverse, and then this is a new setup. Anyway, just to sort of fill you in on the visual part of the movie.
Well, one thing I did notice in the blocking is how much emphasis there is on the turtle hands, and it makes you really take in the design of the 2 fingers, 1 thumb of the turtle
Right.
hand mitt. And it's an interesting choice because turtles, in fact, do have 5 digits inside of their flippers.
Well, that was a design flaw. That, but look how he can't keep his cup in front of her to get it. But again, if you've noticed, I'm constantly moving in and out of 2 shots, 3 shots, and masters. But look at that. You're absolutely right.
Well, there's a lot of elements in the turtle design that are uncanny, and I think it's intentionally so, and I think it's why the turtle design appeals to children who
Hmm.
don't really have set ideas about what teenagers or
Right.
turtles look like, and
Right.
why sometimes it doesn't connect with adults so much who are disturbed by the turtles.
You must always practice
The sets themselves,
all of you.
Yeah. Well, I don't get it.
to work with Splinter, who was a in the original in the comic book, but with created for the film by Kevin Clash, who was brilliant, who had done Elmo. He had to move the facial moves himself, and the set would have to be up about 4 feet so that he could be below doing the work out of camera on lower level. So this was a very complicated thing to do, and took a very long time to shoot. I think we shot for 70 some days on this movie with 2 units. All this was performance stuff that I did. I can share what second unit had to end up shooting, but all this I did. But right now, Kevin Clash is below the table with his moving the head and the moves of the rat.
And this must have been a huge challenge for production designer Roy Forge Smith in designing this.
Very much so, but he, thank God, had done the first movie and was very familiar with the demands and built incredible sets. All these were up about 3 feet. Those are the stunt turtles. No actor could be able to do that. With the heads were about 20 to 30 pounds. The turtle stunt heads were about 4 pounds.
The true ninja is a master of all.
So, what kind of conversations with Smith and Shelley Johnson did you have about the look of the film? Did you have any visual references in mind?
We did, but we would go back actually to some aspects of the comic books that we really felt gave it the style. It was, a kind of. It certainly wasn't realism. It was. I'm trying to find the right word we were working with. Again, this is a set. That New York backdrop is a set. All this is a set, and I worked with storyboards. The pretty much every sequence had storyboards, and we really wanted it to have a kind of colorful and I'm trying to find a word that would best describe it. But here we are. Shredder has returned. It was kind of a magical theatricality, is the way to put it. This was all sort of
Yeah, like
heightened.
heightened.
Yep, exactly. Now, here's another little giveaway. That is Donatello walking around the thing there. That's Leaf Tilden. So every turtle got a chance to play something in the movie.
I love this Lost Boys style set
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
So Roy Forge Smith, who passed away back in 2017, he had a legendary career in the UK, starting out working for John Schlesinger,
Wow.
Basil Dearden, Terry Gilliam. He worked on the Monty Python films, and I can see a continuity between the shaggy staginess of the sets that highlights the comedy.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was, in a nutshell, I thought he was brilliant. And everything that he did, he would have drawings and show it to me and sort of surpassed my imagination to think that he could take it this far with the. I wouldn't say that there was no budget, but he had. The budget of the film lived in the set design and construction and the shooting time, not in star salaries. Uh, and here we have Paige again, Paige Turco, who played the the recast of April. Not even sure why that all happened, but we didn't get the first girl, so we had to recast. And of course, David Warner, brilliant, brilliant British actor who I was a fan of ever since Tom Jones, where he played
Yes.
Bliffle, or whatever his name was, Mr.
Yeah. Billful.
Yeah, he. I think we contacted him, but found out very early on that he had an 11-year-old daughter, and he was dying to do the movie. He was love. He wanted to be in a film that his daughter would want to go see, because he had. Oh, Morgan, that was the famous role he was in. You remember that movie, Morgan?
Morgan, A Suitable Case for Treatment by Carol Reese. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that I remember. Saw that. So I this couldn't have been a bigger mishmash of high level talent and low level comedy sort of thrown together and taken incredibly seriously, so that we were not making fun of it. I took it incredibly seriously, as I've always said, is I channeled my 10-year-old inside of me and gave it credibility, and the arguments were considered real, and the rat was upset with them, and I gave it a lot of childlike profundity is the best way to put it.
Well, I think one of the wonderful things about David Warner is that he gets the tone of every film that he's in. He can slip right into it, and he understands the level of naturalism, the level of slyness, archness, all of these things, while being rooted in real emotion. He's
Totally,
absolutely
totally.
brilliant.
And also he a great flair for comedy, and I mean comedy. And we'll see a couple of sequences later where he just nails it. You know, one of the definitions sometimes people talk about comedy is it's just heightened drama to the nth degree, and circumstances produce the humor, and his investment was so strong that he just had you can't teach comedy, and he just had it.
He's a very George Sanders kind of
Yeah,
performer.
I would agree.
One of the things I have to compliment you with about the way that you introduced Freddie is the way that you framed him between April and the professor. I knew as he was wrangling the cable how important he was.
I have to tell you, coming back to seeing this, I'm a little blown away by the detail to all these minor little things, the plants and the growth, and everything plays very importantly in the story. But look how elaborate. This was the first day of shooting, by the way. We shot this day one, and it was very clear that we had gone to great lengths to give it incredible credibility, not reality. The whole thing's absurd, what you're watching, but it's very credible.
This is not the reason I sent you to follow her.
No, Master.
Freddy serves a very similar role to Danny in the first film by creating a secret channel between Shredder and April for Shredder to keep tabs on the turtles and increase tension for the audience, creating a dramatic irony about how much danger the turtles are in without knowing it.
Good point. Good point. I think Todd Langren, who wrote the sequel, was also worked on the first one as well, or I think so, because
Yeah, he's credited as writer on both, yes.
But he really, and this was the work that we did. We really took it into a far more lighter, for a younger audience, farcical tone, and the key to farce again is, dead seriousness. They're really trying to clean up the apartment for April to impress her. And unfortunately, they've had 20 pies sitting over there at the table. And
What was your level of interaction with Todd Langen on the script? Was it locked when you got it, or could you give any feedback?
no, I think I gave a lot of feedback. We talked a lot about the script.
Yes. And it is time. Join me above.
It seems like something, though, where there would be a lot of top-down
Again,
discussion.
just want to note it. Yeah, I want
Yes.
you to see, again, I really relied very heavily on master shots here and coming in to coverage so that the shot itself is like a six shot that becomes a single, and I think I did this in one shot. I don't think there's a cut.
Well, I love the way, because you've got these big stages with the backdrops, the way you're moving the camera, it kind of reminds me of a backlot musical in that sense.
That is a good analogy.
But know what it is.
I mean, it was musical in nature. Again, I thought John Dupre did a wonderful score, and he's one of the Monty Python people from way back.
The score is so fun.
Yeah.
We never talked about how you ended up becoming the director of this film, about how you ended up being Mr. Secret of the Ooze.
I became Mr. Secret of the Ooze. I had directed the Bad News Bears in Breaking Training, which was a very successful sequel. It was one of the second films I ever did. And in fact, just this past week, Quentin Tarantino did a whole podcast about Breaking Training and went on about the movie, and I was quite overwhelmed. I did that in 1976. This is now 1990. So what happened was I was doing films and then got involved in television movies, and a producer, Terry Morse, who was the line producer on this film, I had worked with, and they were looking for a new director from the first one. They found, as wonderful as the director was, it was double the budget, double the schedule. Could somebody work in the format of a sequel and honor the schedule? So when they brought my name up, or Terry did, he called me and said, you want to come in on a meeting do the sequel to Ninja Turtles, which I thought was the most insane idea for me at that time in my life. But I was directing a television movie, and there was an 11-year-old boy, Matthew Lawrence, who's now a successful actor, starring in this TV movie. And I said, what do you know about the Turtles? And he went nuts and said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going in to meet to direct. Oh my God, I couldn't even finish the sentence. So I went to see the movie and realized I know what I can do with a sequel. So when I went in, I sort of pitched my ideas and sort of how to make it, because I knew that they were struggling both with the reaction in Britain and feedback from parents who were very upset, and they wanted to, change the tone of the film. So I think that's how I got the job, and I will say I'm very proud of it. At the time, people thought I was a little out of my mind, but it certainly ended up being a great success. Love this stuff. This is Leaf playing Donatello with the thing with the way he types. You should watch that. I just remember this. It's very funny.
Well, I love this set. It's
Yeah.
very much like a Joel Silver style set, or a Colossus the Forbin project set.
Sure.
It's
But
so
with
it's
his
so
fingers,
fun.
he's doing. It's all fake, but
Yeah. Can you bring up the file? Well,
And it's interesting that there was this corporate toxic waste plot at the center of this story. David Warner mentions at some point that the canisters were buried 15 years before, which would be around 1976, which is almost exactly the same year that the Love Canal disaster happened in upstate New York. So I don't know if this is a hysterical question. I don't know if that connected with you.
I don't think it did. I think that you've dug a little deeper.
I know.
I think he was using it from one of the comic books, if I remember correctly. There was This is the history of Ooze and the toxic waste was in one of the many comic books that Todd had read. That's what I
Well,
had remembered.
apparently, yeah, even in the comics, there's a supernatural source to the ooze that
Right.
I think they come from aliens. And so the idea to ground it here in corporate greed, but also to kind of take care to disconnect Professor Perry from that. He's kind of more, even though he was one of the original scientists, he's more the cleanup guy here. We're not really pointing the fingers at
Right.
him as being a bad guy, even
Right.
though David Warner plays the best bad guys ever.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. We just kept the bad guy as the Shredder, and that this was another character who ended up being on their side, if I remember correctly. He sort of helps the turtles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He kind of, is kidnapped, rescued by them, kind of goes Patty Hearst, helps the turtles.
Right. A lot of this stunt work was second unit, and it was a very complicated mishmash because I directed and did that, and then I did all that, and then this particular thing was second unit, and no, I did that because anytime we did the turtle heads, I was shooting the close-ups, but this sequence went on for weeks to shoot. You could get 4 or 5 shots a day.
And so could you tell us where the film was shot primarily?
Wilmington, North Carolina, on the stages, and we had must have been 3 or 4 stages and elaborate. The junkyard's a set. The house was a set. Every single thing is a set. I mean, look at David Warner. I mean, again, terrified, but with a comic tilt somehow. I don't know how to describe it. It's like, oh my God, I'm in trouble.
I agree. He gives it the extra level of confusion. Like,
Yes.
I'm scared, but also these people are unbelievably ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. Again, another one of these master shots of all the activity, which are very hard to do because the guys couldn't see very well what they were doing. Sometimes you'll notice that they misplace things, or you could just see slits through their helmets. But look at that.
I was going to ask where the eye holes are.
They're buried underneath the eye. The eyes that you're seeing are not the eyeballs. It's below that. There's a slit underneath the mask where they could see. But, yeah.
I love this scene. This is a callback to the first film, which also has a similar hiding scene where they kind of become like termites, or not
Right.
termites, cockroaches, where they scatter
Right.
in amusing places, and it's always very, very, very funny.
Yeah. And
Where'd these come from?
I guess it's an ode to their ninja skills,
Yeah,
their
yeah.
power of invisibility.
right.
I like to do a little chucking every now and
She did very well, Paige. I think she a little bit of an underrated performance. And looking at it again, she had some good comic sense.
She's charming,
Yeah.
and she looks like Debbie Reynolds to me. I don't. I think, yeah, she's just delightful. And very game. You know,
Yes,
she's
totally.
not holding herself apart.
Right.
She really is trying to
Right.
connect.
Right. I mean, look at this. This is again another all-in-one type moment.
I think you'd better sit down.
This is a set. This is all on stage. The rain and I think on this sequence we were shooting. Look at this. We were again. You know, I was keeping the frame alive because of the mistake that could happen is if you start doing things too close and staying in coverage, you know, you lose the comic quality. And as I learned early on from my film school training with the great Alexander McKendrick at Cal Arts, comedy is in the master shot. And in this particular case, it's definitely true. A stunt actor here.
Yes. You did a great job with these light sources here because it is a thing where it seems like there are a million lights on in this room, plus a fireplace,
Right.
yet it is very dim.
Yeah, well,
And
that's
moody.
Shelley Johnson. We would talk about it, but I have to also say that we were moving so fast in shooting this movie. I mean, the prep was so quick, and the one thing is I know Shelley and Roy Forge Smith worked so well together that a lot of the design was going on between them, and I was rehearsing for 2 weeks in London with the puppeteers and the actors while prep was going on in North Carolina. So it was a whirlwind. But I really went wholeheartedly investment into these characters.
You know, you spoke about the Marx Brothers, but I was also thinking about the Golden Girls and the Bennett sisters, the Beatles. Why is it that a quartet works so well in storytelling?
You know, they say things are in threes, but I can't explain the quartet. But you're right. I just can't explain it. But this is one of the more scary comedic sequences. I mean, he is like, you know, he's getting a little sick and tired of these people. David Warner, you know, gets scared, but at the same time, it's like I'm dealing with, you know, absolute impossible people. The mad scientist at work. This had a little bit of a Man in the White Suit influence from the McKendrick movie that I was a big fan of. And look how silly all this is.
Well, those shots recalled to me David Warner in Time Bandits, where he played evil genius, and he was also kind of stirring up brews covered with, smoke fog
Right,
and
right.
potions.
This was the back lot in North Carolina. We never were in New York for here. We did the opening in New York, but this was in North Carolina. Again, when you bring an actual turtle on a set, we'd have to recreate it.
Wish us luck. God.
So this call back to Casablanca, I think you told me that was one of your favorite movies.
It was, but I don't know where if this came from me or Todd. I don't remember but it certainly was. I think Todd must have written that. I don't know. I love the way she jumps off that little singing in the rain influence. And again, you know, I'm looking at this and remembering set after set. And this was a design. And of course, the big set, which is coming, was, you know, the underground subway train station. And
Well, it's all grounding you in real New York, funny
Yep.
enough. You know, there's this joke right here about Century 21,
Yeah.
and then we're about to end up in this subway station that's based on a real subway station.
Right.
which is the real unused City Hall subway station.
Roy had
Underneath.
photographs
Yeah.
showed us and kind of duplicated it, but then really, again, masterfully. I mean, again, it was lifted up off the ground about 4 feet, and we could, have every time he had to design a set, he had to go, where will the puppeteers and all their equipment be? See, so we're high up where he had to go down, and then we're shooting down at them.
I mean, it's interesting in the way that it mirrors the Foot Clan's clubhouse in a way. They're kind of two opposing Lost Boys clubhouses.
That's true.
And they're also two opposing groups of teenagers, essentially. This is supposed to be, teens that are both struggling with the same impulses of, how do I balance my individuality with, the role I need to play morally? But there's two different guiding forces here. There's Splinter, who tries to guide the turtles on how to.
Look what he did with the all the cobwebs and the set. And
Right.
Just loved it. You're reminding me of again, I'm going strictly for comic staging, but giving it, joyful kid stuff. Look what they found, a home. God forbid that would be a home, but for them it is. The one day, this is, again, the big payoff. He's...
How much longer?
Look, I told you, I don't know. It takes time, days.
I want them as
I love Shredder's design in this
Yeah.
film. He's definitely like it's a very intimidating samurai style
Yeah.
helmet over a Ming the Merciless style cape, and together it brings these historical and pulpy elements that are really iconic.
And there was a man who was doing the voices for both Toka and Razor. Now, there's a giveaway here. That newscaster is me. I am playing April's boss. This was the last day of shooting. We were so short in the film that we wrote a couple of new scenes. And right there is Marcasso, who is Raphael. And that was one of the puppeteers. We were just pulling it all out of our you-know-whats to just get more stuff shot.
So, is this your first director cameo?
I had been in a couple of TV films in the same way, but as you notice, my hair was not properly cut for the role. I mean, I can't believe I did it, to tell you the truth. What I was going to say is that there was a great moment when we were shooting in the junkyard, and the sound mixer son was there, who must have been 7 or 8 years old, and the sound mixer was David Kirshner, and his son, it was in awe watching everything. And I said, I have a question for you. And I looked at this little boy. He said, what? He said, do you think the Ninja Turtles are real? And he looked at me and he said, of course they're real. And I went, well, so then who are these people? He said, oh, these are just actors telling their story. And it was so clear to him that the Ninja Turtles are real, and we're making a movie about the Ninja Turtles, and we have actors playing the Turtles, but there's no confusion. It was hysterical. I thought it sort of explained the whole thing, because the belief is so strong in these characters.
Well, what it does is it kind of elevates the turtles as a mythological
Mythology, yeah.
Yeah. Like we're just telling the creation story of the turtles.
Right. This big build up for, again, I do think that Todd had a great sense of comic screenwriting, because this is a big payoff to utter silliness. But they've been trying to create these monsters. And there was a man named Frank Welker who did voices, and he'd voiced both Toka and Razor. And here we oh, so scary. Oh my God, terrifying.
Well, they are very large.
They are very
And
large, and if they were really, really dangerous, they would be very effective. Just problem is, they're babies.
I had to laugh at that as like a full-grown adult
Yep.
when Shredder says the line, "They're babies."
Yep.
It's a good laugh.
Yep. Yep. Woo, woo, woo. You know, look at them. Oh my God, what's been created here?
I think the actor who plays Shredder does not get credit for
Yep.
his comic timing
Yep.
in this.
Yep. Yes. And look at poor David Wonder. What the hell has happened?
I mean, I think it really, calls on your theatrical training
Yes.
to really sell
Yep.
this illusion.
Yep. This is very. I mean, they, oh, they're infants. They're not babies. They're
Well, he says they're not stupid.
Yep.
They're not stupid.
look at that.
He's very supportive.
Yes.
He understands child development.
Yes, exactly. And they're out of their league. These guys. Look at this. But don't.
Well, it's wonderful because you're really in the heart of the film at this point.
Yep.
All of the different narrative engines are kind of adding up, coming
Yep.
together and brewing. And the film has a real propulsion to it
Mm-hmm.
at this point. It doesn't drag. It doesn't feel like we're caught up in minutia. It feels like things are really running, even though we are constantly cutting between
Right.
our turtle heroes and our villain.
Now we went to New York for 2 days of shooting. That was the sequence of the opening, and now we are in New York for this piece, and there's a couple of other shots. This is Dumbo in 1990, 89. If you go to Dumbo in Brooklyn today, it's a completely different environment. It's the most happening spot in all of Brooklyn right now, but here it was just warehouses. And and it's very hard to shoot the turtle in daylight because it reveals a lot of the skin tones on the outfit. So we only see a glimpse of Raphael here.
When we shoot the Foot Clan, it did remind me a bit of Boulevard Nights, just a flash
That's very funny.
of your film,
Yes,
Boulevard Nights.
Yeah, I know. That was far from my mind at the time, but maybe it was subliminal. And now we're back in North Carolina. This did not shoot in New York.
Well, this is a great time to talk about Pat Johnson,
Yes.
then, or the martial arts choreographer, and tell me about how you collaborated with him.
That was wonderful. He was so collaborative, would take notes and comments. He would show me stuff. I would make suggestions. He would always be responsive. He just was one of the great personalities, and we would talk about it, and then I would let him be. It was a very collaborative thing, and then he'd come back and show me, and we would sort of adjust it and discuss it, and he was great. He's a great part of this movie, as he is with Karate Kid, which is what he had become famous from.
And then kept continuing his career after Secret of the Ooze, went on to do Mortal Kombat and many films. And Ernie Reyes Jr. comes from a martial arts family as well.
That's
His
correct,
father,
yeah.
Ernie Reyes Sr., is a known martial artist in the community.
This is a junkyard that we did shoot in the back lot in North Carolina. Actually, I don't want to say it was a junkyard. That's all props and set dressing. We made our own junkyard.
I mean, I didn't notice that it's built very high.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, this is very technical, but Shelley was very much trying to ward off sun because when it gets too bright, it exposes the latex on the turtle. So he's got them. He had silks and a way to hide the sun, so they're not really in direct sunlight.
But he's always trying to frame out the sky
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah,
And it gives this kind of uncanny feeling of them being trapped claustrophobically behind these
right.
barrels.
Yeah.
Hi, we were looking for a muffler for a 77 ship.
The other person that I really should, well, first of all, the company that financed this film really, it was very supportive. This is one of the few where we got exposed with daylight, but it was a big wide shot, nothing you could do. And Tom Gray, who was the president of Golden Harvest, and then you had David Chan, who was the producer, who worked very closely with not only Pat Johnson, because he was very into the karate aspects, but also we were very close in design and working on the movie. I mean, there was Ernie hurt himself in this sequence, I remember. Strained himself and was limping for a few days.
So overall, how smoothly did the filming go? Were there any challenges with the budget or with the schedule?
It went incredibly smoothly. There was one major incident coming up pretty soon, and I'll share it when we get there, where there was an accident that occurred on the set that, thank God, no one was injured, but it was a cable that broke. Again, this was our evening of that second day in New York.
Come on!
But it was, I had a wonderful first AD to Rob Korn, whom I had worked with on TV movies, and actually Rob has gone on to be a director and executive producer himself of television series. And it was, I will say, wonderfully scheduled, and I think we finished it almost on schedule. But the one of the balances was that, when we'd work out, okay, you have 7 days in the junkyard, I knew if there was a shot that would take 4 to 5 hours to shoot, that would go to the second unit. All this is, I mean, I shot 80% of the movie, but every once in a while there's a shot that I didn't direct. I would come over and watch it, but all this I did. But like, for example, later when one of the Toka Razars take one of the turtles and throws them in the air, that was a whole day to do that stunt, of which I would come in on the set and make sure that it looked right.
So were there multiple Turtles costumes to facilitate that?
No, they were always working, second unit was always working with the stunt turtles. So the actors who were the stunt kids were wearing different helmets, and therefore I could be shooting with these guys who were the puppeteers and the mimes in these electronic server heads that were like 20 to 30 pounds.
Given the layout of this junkyard and the proximity of certain structures, if they were...
Of all the Michelangelo and Donatello were wonderful actors who could, this is where they get caught up in this. This I'm shooting, but I think it crossed over into, let me see what happens here. Oh, that's all our work.
I don't like this!
Uh-oh! I wonder what those are for!
But this shot was second unit, and that big wide shot, the cable broke, and they all went to the ground. And thank God they didn't land on the spikes. But it was a real, that was a stunt man. No, I was shooting this because it's the actors in it.
Remind me to draw the line to Ralph
Well, that's very intense.
Very intense. But I can't tell you how horrifying. I think that's the stunt kids, and then
I mean, it's funny then that there's a Ralph Nader joke in this
yeah.
sequence then.
Oh yeah, well we
I
were.
wonder if we should explain to people who Ralph Nader was.
Cowabunga!
That's right, Shredder, you forgot. We carry insurance. Yeah, mutual.
Well, you want to explain to the audience, Ralph Nader?
Well, Ralph Nader, I mean, okay, I also was 5 when all this happened.
Right.
But I think that, I believe Ralph Nader was a consumer safety advocate.
Yes.
And was very publicly vocal about changes that needed to be made in
Yeah.
things that related to public safety, like especially with automobile safety, seat belts, airbags, things like that. And then he notoriously became the spoiler in the Gore Bush election of 2000, I guess.
Yes, and you're bringing that back to me. I'm trying to remember what did he do in that? Was he? God.
He was the third party candidate.
Aha, that's right. It was yes, of course. Thank you. He's the example of what you don't want to do. Hurt the cause, because he had Gore on his side, but he felt he was anyway. It's worth anyone looking up Ralph Nader and his story. It was a tragic, unintentional event.
Well, back to Toka and Razor.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really love about their arrival in the Turtles trilogy is how they highlight the differences in paternal attitudes between Shredder and Splinter, and what a good dad Splinter is to his turtles.
Yes.
What a good, he's more than a surrogate father. He's beyond that. He's exactly what you want a dad to be. And the reason that Toka and Razar fail for Shredder as heavy.
This is a one-day stunt shot.
Oh yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing stunt.
And then I pick it up right here where. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that Shredder is an avoidant attacher, and that is why there's that problem.
This is good comedy stuff on the part of, playing the classic mask thing, realizing, oh my God, who are these people? Love David's reaction.
He sells it.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Tell me everything about him as a human being. How delightful was he? What's
Utter delight.
Please.
Utter delight. I mean, he was game is the best way to put it. There was he didn't have problems believing anything, which was the best part about working with him. He went with the disbelief of what had been created with these turtles, his awe, each person. I mean, he invested. He just had a great sense of believability, and it was so important that he did, because he gives the film believability. So it was a wonderful choice, and he was a charming man, and was just fun to watch, and he just he never really had a problem with anything.
Did he tell any good stories, any good anecdotes about the swinging 60s, about Malcolm McDowell, about Vanessa Redgrave, about anyone?
You know what? I have to tell you, the answer is no, because he shot for a certain part of the film. I think he must have been there. Well, he came and went. I do remember that. He was at the beginning, came back a few weeks later. I was so consumed by this. I don't remember having many casual conversations with David. He was very, very, very proper, very British proper. I don't think All I could tell you is I was living morning, noon, and night Ninja Turtles. So I was not heading out to a local bar at the end of a shooting day.
You came into contact with a green colloidal gel down in...
I mean, I think I just do a lot of projecting about
Yeah.
how because nobody plays Pinter-esque like David Warner, and that is part of the reason it is so fun to see him here. Is his falling from this one world into the other and doing it with complete grace.
Yeah, and awe, and we've said it before, but he makes it so credible, and his fascination he's the scientist. He's totally in curious, interested, stunned, and at the same time, it's a miracle. And now he's trying to figure it all out.
And here's a big exposition chunk.
Yeah.
Where Professor Perry talks about the origins of the ooze. And it seems like time is taken here to reassure the audience that there was no malice involved in the creation of the ooze. Basically, that it's not a bioweapon. So is this an effort to make the ooze seem less frightening to all ages, or not to hint at the existence of real bioweapons programs?
You know what? I just want to comment on something here because I I wanted to play it with such seriousness about their past, because the whole premise of the film was to understand who they were and make them realer than turtles, that they have human characteristics. And I remember when I was working on the scene, Donatello in the background, I had the actor kind of channel his Marlon Brando, his deep questioning about himself. And I think that maybe from a script standpoint, there may have been some push for Todd to do that, but I think at the same time, it was really part of the through line of the whole story is their own journey to find out about their past. And this is the method actor moment that we had a lot of fun, questioning himself and playing.
Well, I love it. I think it's actually, this is a very profound
Yep.
scene because Donatello has basically met his creator.
Yes.
And he has discovered that there was no purpose to his making.
Yes, that's exactly correct. So that's what he's really struggling with.
I thought we'd find out we were...
And that's when I shot close. If you notice, I'm no longer playing in the comic frame, and I'm really making them very,
I don't believe him.
to be a reason.
More to it.
And this, we were playing very, very, as if this is a drama right now.
Really has so easy an end.
Well, the ooze seems to have a symbolic aspect to it. It's what makes the turtles special.
Yep.
But it's also what alienates them from feeling a part of society.
Yep, absolutely. Now, another cameo to just let you know, I brought my parents down from New York to play the people in the getting the cab. They show up in a minute. My mother was a dancer. My father was a theater actor and acting teacher and director. And I grew up in a theater family as a child. And they flew out, and we cast them as this couple coming up. Give it a little comic relief to the... I have no memory how we wrote this or where Todd wrote it for me or whatever, but...
Well, I think it's to me, like, this is kind of where the third act starts.
Yeah.
Because Shredder is taking his war against the Turtles to the streets of New York.
Right.
And the Turtles have to fight back with a plan
Right.
of their own.
And here are my parents, who they were already, it must be late 70s, but my father lived to 98, my mother lived to 94, and they were
They're really delightful.
Yeah.
What was their reaction to seeing all of this?
They
How did
they 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 loved it. This is also backlot of North Carolina, and they enjoyed it to no end. I don't think they understood it, but
Well, I was going to say that I definitely regress when I'm around my parents and I turn into a teenager. I don't know if they brought that out in you or whether you're more evolved than I am.
well, by this point I was already in my 40s, so no, they didn't do that. I had to wrangle them. I think the children in them came out. They were having too much fun.
Aw. Well, this is one of the performers from the first
Yep.
film who kind of comes back to, I believe his name is Raymond Sarah.
Yep.
And he has a very large part in the first film.
He
as,
does.
You know, I would say a quasi-corrupt cop.
Right.
Definitely somebody who's an willing tool of the shredder industrial power complex that April exposes.
Right.
And he's back here for a moment.
Yeah, this was paying homage to the first because he doesn't. It's not an important role in the film. It's just he's. I think he's sort of fundamentally incompetent in the second film. I mean, looks at all this and says, "Clean it up." Da da da. Doesn't take anything seriously. Doesn't believe anything, and now they've captured April.
This is unusual, but I feel like there was more visible product placement in the first film than there is in this one.
Huh, I wasn't aware. What I'm struck by looking at all of this is, my God, there was so much nonstop action and movement. Mm-hmm. This film never stops.
It's very kinetic.
Yeah.
It's a very kinetically choreographed camera in this film.
Yep. Hardly stops moving. You know, it's one of the things I always say to directors, younger directors starting, is try to imagine what your film would look like if you couldn't hear the sound. And since we're not really focusing on the sound and watching image, I'm very struck by the story being told visually. I feel like I understand exactly what's going on without paying that much attention to the dialogue.
Well, when the turtles are in an emotional scene, they're often lit with a warm yellow light, I've noticed. You know, there's the firelight scene during
Right.
the thunderstorm. This scene has these beautiful incandescent color temperature bulbs to create warmth.
Yep. Look at this. This is totally
Delightful.
a la absent-minded Professor Disney style, I think. And of course, he's now with the program, the final moment. I think that was even. No, it was in the script, because I was going to say I think David Warner made it up, which was, pepperoni heaven, but I think it might have been in the script. He just look, they're all.
And this is a silly question, but was there a lot of pizza eating on set? Were they people eating the pizza props frequently? Or did it become anathema?
Absolutely not. You wouldn't dare touch prop pizza. I can't imagine what it was like.
Well, here's another silly question, but fun.
Yes.
Which of the turtles do you relate to the most?
Well, I was, again, I think I had a leaning toward Michelangelo and Donatello, partly because I felt I could get the performances out of them, and also they seem to be two sides of a whole for me, this relationship. But I saw pieces of myself in each and every one.
Right this way. Leonardo, hand me a glass, will you, please?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Leonardo and
Well, we won't really know until we spray those.
Raphael, they all had their own unique qualities but look how silly this is, but there you go. I mean, this is, again, David Warner with full commitment.
You mean they have to eat it?
I like to think that he gives the exact same level of, concentration and inner work to this performance as he does to working with Alan Renee or anyone else.
Right. Is David Warner no longer with us? I lost.
He passed away just recently.
Really? Okay.
I felt we lost him and Julian Sands pretty much back to back were two of the great Pincher performers, in my opinion.
Oh my God. Again.
So we are in the third. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I was going to say
sorry
this is one of your broader sequences. This is getting into what is the donut sequence. Though again, we played all of this dark and serious and scary. Another beautiful set built by Roy. I mean, we would take one set down and then put a new set up, and it was just in a very elaborate production. Very elaborate.
Well, since we're speeding through the third act, let's start talking a little bit about the post on the film. Steve Merkovich and John Wright are both credited as editors on the film. Steve Merkovich had been an editor for John Carpenter on Big Trouble in Little China and Prince of Darkness. So he's bringing a horror edge or a fun edge from Big Trouble. John Wright, who just passed in 2023, ended up being nominated for Oscars for editing Speed and The Hunt for Red October.
Right.
So how did they split the work on the film?
John was the A editor, they worked wonderfully together. I do remember that, and I found it seamless as to who was doing what. But again, from a kind of technical standpoint, because the film shot so long, I mean, we're talking 70-some shooting days, they would get 2 to 3 minutes of footage every day. So they stayed very, very close in the editing while we were shooting. So I would be looking at cuts while I was directing. It was a whirlwind. When you say, what about my conversations with David Warner, I'm realizing I think I went back in the evening and looked at scenes and would give notes and speak to them, so that by the time we finished, which was probably December now. I think we started shooting in October, if I've got it correctly, and so we went to December, and then I had January, February, and a couple of weeks in March to finish post. The hardest part was 4 weeks of looping of all the characters, not David and not Paige, but I had to loop every turtle individually. Each actor who played the different turtles came in for maybe 2 to 3 days to do the looping of the whole film. The biggest area in post was the dubbing, which had to do with taking the dialogue tracks, the sound, the music, and putting it all together, and that must have been almost a month. And that was an outrageously challenging month because, I would be available at every minute to go and listen to a reel and make notes and changes. And then we had playback for Vanilla Ice, who's showing up any minute. Anyway, that was really the structure. We were all in sync. We had to be. There was no like, oh my God, let's go back and re-edit something. And I think, by the way, I shot in a style that sometimes was very obvious for the editing. It was almost in the storyboarding of it. Here we go, the big payoff musical dance number sequence.
I'm so excited to ask questions about this.
Go ahead.
So, well, to me, this is like where it kind of almost becomes like an Elvis movie.
Yes.
And
yeah, the challenge was to keep styles again, because now it just shifted. but we were building towards it. Again, I'm looking at it and realizing, not that we're conscious about it, but we certainly never lost this relationship dealing with the monsters and the turtles, and now caught in this club, and I don't remember much about dealing with Vanilla Ice, but I do remember he gave it his all for the 4 days he was there, and he was very into it, as you can see.
Did you weigh in on the ninja rap in any way, from a lyric level or?
No, I do remember they hired him, and I think he sent the song in, and we listened and loved it. Kind of, whether. And now again, I'm foggy on this. Did he? We'll have to wait and see the credits. Did Todd Langren write the lyrics? I'm not sure. Or was this written music and lyrics by Vanilla Ice? I'm not sure. That's one of the puppeteers on the right who did Michelangelo, and that's Greg Salata, an actor from New York that I worked with later and know personally.
I think one of my favorite shots in the film is when David Warner passes through the crowd in front of Vanilla Ice dancing, because it just feels like worlds have collided, and it's just everything about movies that I like.
Well, that is very observant. This coming up, because I don't know if it's this shot or if it's the next. Oh, this one, because he had to do a whole scene while all of that was going on behind him, and it's one shot. And I remember him being very nervous because of the stakes, meaning that the amount of setting up the whole club and the song with him in the foreground and them in the background. And I wanted to bring them together. So that was a very important shot that you commented on.
Well, and it's lit perfectly, because the way that the color is done and the focus is done, both planes of actions are very clear.
Yep. Yeah, well, they were deep focus and out of focus in the background, but you can see them, and we're following the two shot with David Warner and one of the turtles.
I wonder if David Warner and Vanilla Ice ever exchanged any words. Perhaps. I hope.
I can't imagine. I think Vanilla Ice.
I wonder what they talk about.
Vanilla Ice had a trailer and a bunch of and his entourage, and they disappeared into that trailer.
So did Vanilla Ice speak with you about the film that he was working on that year, Cool as Ice?
No. We were.
It's his version of Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh, really? I know he's been wanting to do some documentary about all of this, but that's the latest I heard. But look at him go.
Well, the choreography is really
fun. Yes. A wonderful choreographer had done that I had hired to do the dance sequence, and she was working with them, for a good week before we shot it.
I mean, did you have any musical inspirations for this scene that you were kind of thinking of?
No, I can't, I don't know how this all came together, but it really did.
She is the most enthusiastic extra. She's just dancing and jumping, and she has red hair. She is just living this frame.
That was my wife at the time. We weren't married yet. We're no longer married again, but that's okay. That's my ex-wife, Lisa Chess, who played one of the crowd.
So much energy in this film.
And Myrna Garwin was the choreographer, and she was also
wonderful.
And she came in and again showed me what she was doing and worked with them, and it just sort of all came together. It's remarkable looking at this film. Look at David Warner. Look at David Warner. I know. Look at that.
that must have been incredibly difficult to do small technical footwork in these costumes.
Incredibly difficult, and a lot of takes to get it right.
It's just hard to be precise with,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard dancing in many kinds of shoes, period, for like close footwork like that.
Absolutely.
But, doing big pull-on
Right.
rubber boots, very difficult.
I think the again, I really have to say that Rob Korn, who was the AD, was so helpful, because now that I'm thinking about it, we had to do sections in this place. We had to, I would, Vanilla Ice had to shoot in 4 days and get them out, but I think we were 7 days in this club. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
So we talked about the editing, we talked about the dubbing. Did you do any testing of different versions of the film?
We didn't have time. We finished this movie, I think, 2 weeks before it came out and released, and we flew by the seat of our pants. And the one story I have about that is on opening day, and it was out in several thousand theaters. I was driving in L.A., and I hear on the radio it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's the opening day for Ninja Turtles, and little Tommy and his mom are here in Hollywood at the theater. And by the look of things, it's only little Tommy and his mom. And I literally pulled over and called the head of distribution. And I said, "What is going on? 2 people at a theater in Hollywood?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry. The film is exploding all over the country. It's a big, big hit." And I just remember hanging up the phone and just falling apart, thinking, the future of my career is in the hands of the 10-year-olds. And they showed up. But it was a little scary. He said, "Don't worry about the Hollywood crowd. This film is playing well all over the country." Oh, look at that.
I love
Yeah.
these little animals. So it seems like that timeline worked for you. Without having the time to test it, you basically got final cut on this, it would
I
seem.
would agree. Absolutely. Nope. There was no, let's change this, let's change that. It was, let's go. And I remember a big screening with the New Line executives. But it was, I think, 2 weeks before the film came out. I don't think there was a change.
So just before
By
the
the
film
way,
came
all
out.
on a set.
Oh, go ahead.
Interior.
Yes.
On stage.
Oh, this is the second hand coming through
Yeah.
the
No, but I'm saying the
frame
water
shot.
shot. All that's on a tank on the lot. That we were not in New York City. This was all. And they play beautifully. They play beautifully in 4 shots. By the way, looking at the turtles, look at that.
Oh, and this is Kevin Nash, the wrestler, who
Yep.
plays the Super Shredder. Originally, another actor, Kevin Peter Hall, was supposed to play the part. And his work had already been done on the costumes. Do you remember this?
No, I don't. But you have your attention to detail in research is remarkable. I applaud you.
Well, I read a little interview with Kevin Nash, and he said that the way he was brought into the film, Kevin Nash is now a well-known wrestler, star, and performer. He was wrestling in Greensboro, North Carolina. He was not known at all. And 2 people from Carol Coast Studios approached him and asked him if he wanted to play the role, apparently because the costume had already been made for Kevin Peter Hall, who suddenly passed away and could no longer do the part.
Oh, this is coming back to me. This was behind the scenes of which I wasn't being told, but because it was like, well, the person who did it is not the right person, but that this happened, but here we have this. That's what they would do. They would keep all this stuff from me. The last,
Right.
This is set, and then this is
They didn't want to worry you.
Yeah.
But Kevin Peter Hall was about 7'2", very tall. He played the Predator, so it was going to be incredibly difficult to readjust the costume. They were just basically running through the streets of North Carolina looking for a 7-foot tall man to play this part.
That's hysterical.
And so when they found him, they asked Kevin Nash if he could make a head cast immediately, and they dragged him to a Holiday Inn and made it that minute.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at that. Great lighting, great set. Just, oh my God, he never dies.
So just before the film came out, a professor at Wheelock College announced that they had done a survey that found 95% of teachers they asked could trace, quote, violent and antisocial behavior to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, saying that they led to imitations of ninja combat and pizza chomping. Were you aware of this study as the film was coming out?
No, I definitely was not. This would be,
It seems very silly.
Well, it's not even that it's silly. I think that this is such a mild, looking at this film, it is so mild in what children today are seeing and what films,
Right.
and the violence that's existing in movies. This is so good-spirited in the stakes. And of course, here's your final moment, the parental reprimand of exposing themselves.
Well, you just think that kids with lots of energy are just going to pattern their roughhousing around whatever pop culture they're taking in, whether it's Gunsmoke and Bonanza or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, you're really going to have to think about the Three Stooges, which was, all the poking in the eyes and all that stuff. But
I love this final freeze frame,
Yeah.
too. All the freeze frames are so fun.
yeah. See who else we haven't mentioned. That's Ken Traum was with the other turtle, and so here are the puppeteers, the four gentlemen playing the four turtles. Each person had a headset, and Terry Morse was the producer, whom I knew, and I brought Rob in, who I had done television movies, and Rob and Jeff Raffner ended up becoming executive producer and ADs on Grey's Anatomy, and
Well, I just want to take us out. We recorded this commentary on the occasion of Secret of the Ooze's 4K release. Why do you think the film is still so popular today that it is enduring format after format?
It's hard for me to be the one to answer that question. Watching it, since I have not seen the whole film in 15 years, so just by talking about it and looking at it, I'm overwhelmed by the energy and the attention to detail and the tone of the film, and the fact that we accomplished an investment that can live with this magical world of the Ninja Turtles. So the film did not succeed in the third one, which was I forget what it was called, the third Ninja Turtle movie.
It was just called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, but sometimes it has Turtles in Time on certain box covers.
Okay, well, it didn't seem to have the same following, and I think that we got very positive reviews, and there was a real appreciation of the work that we did. And I think the work we did was to honor the importance of telling this story. And I think right from the beginning, the notion of saying, let's do a Where Did They Come From movie, and at the same time capturing tone and style of lightness and humor, and not playing down to a young audience, but playing with full investment. I was very struck by how many adults enjoyed this movie as well as kids. And then when I meet people, this is the film that I get the biggest response to as a director.
Well, thank you so much, Michael Pressman. Thank you for coming down and talking to us in 2025 about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and thank you to the audience for listening.
You're more than welcome, Jillian. And again, happy 37th birthday.
That was a teeny little while ago, but yes,
okay.
I did get my poster signed. It was thank you for making a movie called To Jillian on her 37th birthday.
You're more than welcome.
How each and every day we're changing like the weather. Now it's up to you and me. We can save the world if we stay together. Reach out, no matter what we are, then no escaping that we'll reach out. Some people have gone too far, and now we've got to stop them.
In this world of irony,
It's nice to know that we are one big family.
nice to find some peace of mind.
And knowing that the creatures are the best kind.
Don't you suppress, got to express all that is best.
Raise your consciousness, dudes.